It's a big week in college football. Week 8 is upon us, and I want to preview and break down 3 of the biggest matchups this week. We're going to start off with it's time for my college football week 8 best bets, my 5 best bets for this week in college football. We're coming off our worst week ever, going 1-4. Nobody really covered for us but Colorado. We're trying to get things back on track, and that's why we're rolling with Illinois as a 3-point underdog at home against Michigan. Michigan, they're too one-dimensional on offense to win this game, in my opinion, but although I don't trust Illinois to win this thing outright, I do trust them to keep it within a 3-point spread because both of these teams kind of have the same philosophy. We want to run the football. We want to play great defense. But the difference between the two is that although Illy hasn't been as dominant running the football as what Michigan has, their offense has been way more consistent because they've gotten better quarterback play out of Luke Altmaier, who has a 14-1 touchdown interception ratio. And he quietly has been one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten this year. And we've seen Michigan struggle against a Washington team that had a really good passing attack. And when you got a balanced offense, you can beat Michigan. And Michigan, you're going to be hard-pressed continuing to win games, not getting any good quarterback play at all. They now are starting their 3rd quarterback of the season at Jack Tuttle. And as good as what their defense is, your defense can only help you so much when your offense has you on the field for so many plays. And that's why I like Illinois to cover as a 3-point underdog at home. And I wouldn't be surprised if they win this game outright. I love the matchup of Illinois' offense against that Michigan defense with how good that passing attack has been led by Luke Altmaier. Next up, I love Colorado. Once again, that's a 3.5-point underdog on the road against Arizona. I keep telling you guys this. I don't like betting on Colorado, but in these Big 12 games, though, it's hard not to put money on them because if you don't have a great defense with a good pass rush like Nebraska, a lot of NFL bodies on your defensive line, you're going to have a hard time being able to blow out Colorado with how potent their offense is. We know how good Shedeur Sanders is. He was really good last week against a really good Kansas State defense. Although his decision-making in the end of that game was kind of questionable, he still played a really good game. You get Jimmy Horn Jr. and Travis Hunter back healthy in this matchup as well. Arizona with their new head coach, Brett Brennan, he has not been it. They have been a far cry from the team that they were last year. Noah Fafita has struggled to take care of the football. The matchup between T-Mac and Travis is going to be really interesting, but Arizona defensively, they can't stop a pulse. And Colorado, their defense has tremendously improved over the course of this season. Yeah, they still gave up 31 in Kansas State, but that defense was able to give them a chance to win the game. You know, for Arizona, I don't see their defense getting enough pressure on Shedeur to stop this offense. And their secondary, with how bad they played on the back end, I expect them to give up a lot of big explosive plays to Shedeur Sanders and company. I'm taking Colorado not to just cover as a 3.5-point underdog, but I love them to win this game outright. If you can't just completely obliterate Colorado's offensive line, you're going to be in a close game with them. Alabama, I'm rolling with the Tide. That's a 3-point favorite on the road against Tennessee. I know that playing on the road in college football is really difficult, but for Alabama, they got the experience on their side. You got Jalen Milroe, who is no stranger to these kinds of road games. You got Kalen DeBoer, who has a pretty good coaching resume when he has gone up against big-time opponents. You know, he beat Dan Lanning twice last year, outcoached Steve Sarkisian in the semifinals of the playoffs last season as well, and he just got a win over Kirby Smart not too long ago. Now, Alabama isn't playing their best football, but neither is Tennessee. And with Nico Iamaleava struggling these last couple of games, I don't think Tennessee's offense is going to be able to take advantage of Alabama's underperforming defense. So I think that Alabama offensively, with them having Ryan Williams, Jalen Milroe, it changes a lot for them. And it still gives them a good chance to cover this game. I probably will by a point and a half of this game. I'll probably take Alabama as a 2.5 point favorite instead of 3, because this probably is going to be a field goal game. So I love the Tide as a 3-point favorite on the road. But if you feel a little bit uncomfortable about taking them with the -3, I probably would get the 0.5 point and I'll take them -2.5. Georgia Tech and Notre Dame are facing off in a neutral site game. Georgia Tech, I'm rolling with them as a 12-point underdog because Notre Dame, they have been really dominant these last couple of weeks. Ever since they lost to NIU at home early this year, they just have flipped the switch, but they still aren't that good offensively. Riley Leonard, he isn't that good. It's just that defense has played outstanding. They've been really good at generating turnovers, and if they don't generate turnovers, most of the times they're in a close game. All right, so Georgia Tech, they're one of the best teams in the nation at taking care of the pigskin. Haynes King has done a great job of minimizing his mistakes. You got a really good running back in Justice Haynes, and Georgia Tech has an experienced team. And when you got an experienced team, oftentimes you see a team that's more composed. They don't have a lot of dumb penalties. You normally get a team that is pretty tough to beat when you're a squad like Notre Dame that, yeah, you got more talent than Georgia Tech. You've out-recruited this team, but from what we've seen, when Georgia Tech is able to take care of the football and Notre Dame, when they can't get those turnovers, Notre Dame ends up being in dogfights. And although I still like Notre Dame to win, I don't see Georgia Tech getting blown out in this game. I do think that their coaching staff is pretty good, and I do believe that they have enough players offensively to generate some big plays to keep them in this ball game. So I love Georgia Tech with the points as an underdog in this neutral site setting. If this was in South Bend, I probably would be thinking a little bit differently, but with this being a neutral site setting, the crowd noise isn't really going to be a factor. I love Georgia Tech to cover this thing. And lastly, I'm rolling with Nebraska as a 6.5-point underdog on the road against the Hoosiers. Indiana has been the biggest sleeper team in college football this season, despite them being one of the few remaining unbeaten teams. Nobody really is talking about them, and they got a great chance to win the Big Ten, but I love Nebraska as an underdog because this is going to be a close game. Nebraska is the best team that Indiana has played up to this point. They beat Northwestern and Maryland in their first couple of Big Ten matchups, but Dylan Raiola has played some good football. Indiana, I don't think they're as good as what the statistics show, because when they went up against Northwestern, they got shredded by that quarterback that they had in. And Northwestern's offense hasn't really been anything to write home about. And Nebraska has one of the best defensive lines in college football. That dude, number 0, Indiana isn't going to have a dude on that offensive line that's going to be able to block them. So that pass rush for Nebraska, I expect it to be a major factor for Indiana's offense. And that's why I love for this to be a close game. With how good Nebraska is defensively, they can slow down Indiana's offense. And Nebraska themselves, with what they have at quarterback and at wide receiver, how good their offensive line play is, I think that Indiana defense is going to be in for one of their worst performances of the season. So I don't really know who's going to win this game, but I do know that I love Nebraska with the +6.5. This should be a really close game. And these are my 5 best bets for week 8. Leave your picks down in the comment section down below. If you use these, put any money on them. I only want the credit. I don't want the blame. But we've been really good this year. Last week was our worst week ever. We went 1-4. I don't know what the hell was going on. But the week before that, we went a perfect 5-0. And I expect that we will get back on track with these picks. Hey man, have you hit that like button yet? Have you subscribed to the channel? Because if not, what are you doing? It only takes less than a second to do so, man. I love football. You love football. This is the best place to be if you are a diehard fan of football, man. We're talking NFL, college football, 24/7, 365 days a year. If you are a diehard football fan, this is the right place for you. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon so you don't miss when we drop new content, and go live.